And in the house this morning, we have 14th District State Representative candidate Chris Corry. Good morning, Chris.
Hey, good morning.
Morning, Chris.
Thanks for having me.
First time I've met Chris.
I know.
So,
Lucky him.
Yeah, I know, man. Chris, tell us about who you are, what you do. Kind of give us in a nutshell who is Chris Corry?
Sure, I'd love to. So first of all, thanks for having me. Chris Corry, running for State House of Representatives here in the 14th District. Local business guy, husband of one, father of three. I like to make sure we have that order distinct.
Don't ever want to foul those up.
No. So running here for the State House, I have lived in California and seen what out-of-control government spending and regulations can do to families and businesses, and I don't want to see that happen. My wife was born and raised here in Yakima. We love it here, and we want to see economic prosperity for all of Central Washington.
Well, so many things. I mean, the McCleary, mental health, gun control. What's on your mind in terms of being like the number one issue that you want to fight for or bring to Olympia?
There's a lot, and I'm gonna start with McCleary. Not that you just kind of almost segmented into some of my top three priorities, but McCleary is going to be a big challenge for us. The fix was, in my opinion, not a fix. I think we have a lot more work to do to provide consistent clarity around our funding for our teachers in our schools. I'm a parent. I sit on a facilities committee with the West Valley School District. I've worked closely with the superintendent and the school board. So I see what they're trying to do. They're trying to make sure that they've got a fiscally sound budget, that they can pay people well, and that they know where their funding is. And unfortunately, with what happened with the levy swap, they're in a position now where most school districts don't know long-term where they're going to sit. So we gave out a lot of raises, and now they're going to have to figure out how we're going to pay for those. So I've got some concerns there. I don't think that just blanket lifting the levy lid is necessarily the way to go. I don't want to get us into a McCleary 2 where we get sued again. So that's one big area. I think mental health is huge. We've seen the unfortunate state of our mental health institutions, Western and Eastern state hospitals. I think that we need to move to a more localized system that's a little less, I guess for lack of a better term, two big horses on each side of the state. I think we need to focus on getting our nonprofits and other public-private partnerships out there to bring mental health more into our communities.
A little less bureaucratic. And,
a little more responsive to the people. It's better for families that have members that are being treated. They don't have to go to either Spokane or the West Side. So I think that's an important thing.
You look at our Sundown M Ranch and the success that they've had with addiction treatment. I think maybe models like that are, community-based and different kind of setting than a big old gray bar hotel and that sort of thing? Or
yeah, I think Sundown M Ranch is a great example of how you can treat in a very, what I would call, holistic way. And I think with mental health, you can do that as well by just, again, getting people out of what people would assume is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest style places and move it to something that's more local. It's better for them. It's better for the community. I think it's better for the state overall.
All right, for $25,000 to help your campaign, the name of the Native American that played the role of the big Indian in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was?
Come on. I mean, I don't even know that.
I have no idea. I will tell you, I was in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest in high school. So
were you?
I actually played one of Nurse Ratchet's aides. So
I can see that. Will Sampson, but we'll move on. Leaving $25,000 on the table. There'll be more questions and more opportunities to win.
PDC cap shit $1,000 for the general. So
you've been knocking on a lot of doors. I know that. I mean, are people telling you this kind of stuff? Is this the kind of stuff that you're hearing? I mean, I'm probably not hearing about mental health.
Well, we're looking at people are concerned about homelessness, and I think that is a huge component of it.
Right.
So people are concerned about our schools. I was at a forum last night down in Underwood. So we're hearing this across the district. Obviously, this is a very large district. For those who don't know, the 14th covers from downtown Yakima all the way out to White Pass, basically, and down to the Columbia River Gorge, and all along until you get to the tip of Clark County on the east side.
Wow.
So get into Washougal?
It's right on the border.
Right on the border.
Wow.
Okay, yeah.
Do you find that you have I mean, are people different in their views in all those areas, or are we all pretty much the same? I mean, and with the same concerns.
It's there's the education. There's no distinct district divide on that. I think that there's issues when it comes to land use and management down south that we don't have up here to the same degree. If you look at Skamania, one of the big issues they have down there is just about 2% of the land is fully taxable for the county. That leaves a lot to be desired for them to have an appropriate tax base like we have up here in Yakima County. So they're tight for some funding. I think that between the federally owned lands and the state-owned lands, there's a lot more that the state can do to help in its fiduciary role for serving the schools and communities down there. So that's just one distinct issue for the south part of the county, the district, excuse me. I think that there's a lot of common issues amongst our agriculture folks when it comes to labor, when it comes to land use and development. So there's a lot of areas that I'm focused on making sure that we represent both sides of this district.
In terms of you versus your opponent, I know that you did you sit for the Herald editorial board yet?
We did last week.
And you did the Goldendale thing. And so you've had a chance to, and you've had a number of forums where you've sat side by side. If you were to do three quick things that are, divergent between you guys, what that you might address a certain way and her another, what would you say the most significant differences are?
So I think that I could boil down the biggest difference is that I believe that local communities and local people know how to best handle their problems and solutions. So I'm more for local control, whether it's with schools, with your money, with local tax dollars. I want less from Olympia and more from the local communities. Similar to the mental health issue, they are able to tackle things locally far better than a bureaucrat in Olympia can. So I'd like to get out of people's way. I think my opponent is, strong in her beliefs that the government can provide those things and should provide those things. And I disagree. I think the government needs to be there to provide a level playing field. But I don't think that the government is able to provide solutions and services as good or, as appropriate as local citizens can.
Should be the statement they always say, provide a level playing field, but the government shouldn't then play, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That's the part of that phrase that's never gets said, but I think is the underlying phrase. Make sure that everybody has the fair shot, and then let them take their shot, get out the way. Okay, so there's a couple of key differences. I mean, she is. I will say this: that as we've had a number of Democrats that have come through here in our process so far, and they all really say the same kinds of things, and you conservatives all really say the same kinds of things, and so there's a very distinct difference in the approach to what government's role is in people's lives and how that plays out in their lives, and I think that's the clear the clear path for voters to choose. One says more and one says less. So how's the messaging been going? I mean, I imagine you've been places you've never have been before and met a ton of people. How are you liking the experience?
I am. My wife says I'm more energized every day, and I'm all over this district. I think I've put over 15,000 miles on my car since April.
Yeah.
I got back from Underwood last night at about midnight and was ready to go. I was actually early tonight because I was so excited to be here.
Early.
But no, I think that I love this district, this whole community. I love Yakima, and I see similarities in all of our communities. People care about each other. There's a level of accountability you have in local communities that I don't think you get on the west side. So I want to be able to represent that. And people just want a fair shake. They want to be left alone. They're concerned about their rights, and I think they have proper reason to do so. We've got a couple ballot initiatives that I think are, for lack of a better word, terrible, and will really harm us, especially here in Central Washington.
Lance is going to take you through those right now.
First of all, though, I'm wondering how you feel about an income tax. A lot of talk about an income tax. It comes back every year, it seems like, with the amount of revenue that we have coming into our state. It doesn't seem like there's going to be a big push for it, or shouldn't be a big push for it again this year, but there probably will be. How do you feel about it?
No, but I'll expand on that just a little bit, because I'm a politician now.
Okay.
So we have the largest revenue forecast that we've ever had as a state. Our governor yesterday was signaling his budget with $1 billion deficit.
Wow.
So That makes it sound like, oh, well, we don't have enough money. We need to raise taxes. No, we need to curb spending. That's what we need to do. We have a very sound economy. As a matter of fact, if anything, we should be looking at doing some cuts to our sales tax to get more money back into people's pockets.
All right. I'm going to ask you stamps. A lot of us not going to be paying for stamps when we vote this next in November. Is that something that you'd like to see happen forever?
I'm not really sure it increased turnout. I think with having polling or ballot boxes and stuff, I think you have, created any issue with the cost associated with voting. However, if the state decides to continue doing it, obviously we need to make sure it needs to be done as a state to avoid any sort of issues there with access to voting.
The initiatives, 1631. That's that. I can pretty much know how you're going to vote on all these, but 1631, the carbon tax. How do you feel about that?
It's a
lot of big money packing it.
Well, of course, and you follow the money. The problem is it doesn't actually address the carbon issue. So it's a tax on families and businesses. So if you drive a car or heat your house, which everyone here in Central Washington does, you're going to be paying more. And my problem is it's just disingenuous. It's claiming that it's going to help, our climate, but really it's just going to help grow government.
Initiative 1639. That's the gun initiative, toughening background checks for people buying semi-automatic rifles, increasing the age limit to 21 for buyers of those guns, requiring safe storage of the firearms to some people. That sounds really good.
Yeah, again, it sounds good on paper. They sold it as a school safety initiative, does nothing to help keep schools safe. You want to keep schools safe, let's look at modernization for some of our older schools with entries and exits. I think that's a fair conversation. I think it infringes on people's Second Amendment rights. I also think it makes it cost prohibitive for low and middle class people to own weapons, because it's not just those things that are in there. There's also $25 tax on new guns, yearly background checks. You give up privacy rights, and there are mandated classes you're going to have to take. Who knows how expensive those will be? All those things add up, and unfortunately, we need, people need protection. And if you're especially in a rural community, Yakima is pretty metropolitan compared to some parts of this district. If you're out there, police response time can be up to an hour. So I want to make sure that people have the ability to protect their families and their property.
Initiative 940, that's the police training, de-escalation training for police. I know I'm not giving it the proper due when I say that, but if you got to read it. 940, how do you feel about that?
Sounds, the initiative, when you read it, it sounds, super mellow. Oh, we're just going to have more training. It's good for people. It's just more training. But it's not. There's a whole slew of new limitations for our first responders, and obviously we want to make sure that police have the training they need, but I disagree with a lot of the limitations that they've been putting in there.
One of the things that we're seeing right now, Lance, is a conversation about the presumption of guilt before innocence, and that almost, to me, is kind of the attitude behind this. It's you are a problem now, and so you need this to get better, rather than seeing it as something that augments and helps. So not to put words in your mouth, but that really irks me. So I think everybody that's on our side of the ledger sees it that way, and you join those ranks.
Yep. And Initiative 1634, the grocery tax, or the sugar tax it is called in Seattle. I guess voting yes on this would be a no on the sugar tax.
It would be a no to allow further jurisdictions to enact these things on groceries.
That's right. He's heading to Olympia. He wants to reserve that for himself.
That's right.
None of these local jurisdictions, right, Chris? Just kidding.
Oh, that's funny.
Chris, you got about a minute left. Tell us why you are the best choice for folks to send to Olympia.
I believe I'm the best choice to go to Olympia because I believe I represent a majority of this district. I'm a pro-business, pro-family guy who wants to make sure that you are left alone to succeed and thrive as an individual, as a business. I believe that as a community, we know how to do things better than they do in Olympia, and I would rather see more power reserved in the hands of people than in the hands of bureaucrats in Olympia. So I'm going over not to, I guess, for a career change. I'm going over there to help support and defend what I think is a great state and ensure that we remain economically free.
Young man, 35, let me just say this, whether it means anything or not, but for your first time out, running a good campaign, very personable, very clear, very specific. I think you're doing a heck of a good job. I really do. So best of good luck. If you win, we'll have you back for many, many, many conversations down the road. And if not, let's come back and chat anyway because you're a good guy.
Looking forward to it.